Love is our true divine nature, and our heart serves as the intersection of the spiritual and physical, connecting our soul with our body as the conduit for anchoring our divinity onto the earth plane. Embodying our divinity is the key to our ascension and to manifesting our highest destiny in this life. The teachings of the heart are alchemy. Join spiritual mentor and channel Jennifer Spohr each week on a sacred journey to lift the veil to remembering your divinity and meet other beautiful souls who are living the path of the awakened heart. Hey everyone, today I have with me Tonia Jenny. She supports creatives in the process of sharing their messages of inspiration with others and encourages the exploration of all things made by hand. Prior to owning her own editorial, writing, design, and branding business, Tonia enjoyed her adventure as a Northlight craft and art book editor for over a decade. Passionate seeker and sacred maker, she never grows tired of exploring new ways of celebrating beauty and each individual's unique authenticity. So excited to have you. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Jennifer. Happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so fascinated by your work. I'd love for you to share with us more about, who are your ideal people, like your ideal clients, and just more about how you work with people.
Well, my ideal clients are creatives, and by that I mean certainly visual creatives, probably first and foremost, but also creative writers, musicians, anyone who expresses who they are in the world and in some sort of, alternative form of communication, whether it's art, poetry, music, that kind of thing. And I know that a lot of creatives are not necessarily writers, but they still have something to share. They have some sort of message with their work, um, something that they feel their work has to offer the world. And I am kind of a bridge between them being able to do that, to help them communicate in a way that is eloquent and effective, and really help them kind of find their message. A lot of creatives don't even really exactly know what their message is sometimes. So I kind of help them distill that and get a little bit of clarity around what it is that their art, their work, has to offer the world, not just themselves, but what place it has in the betterment of everybody. I don't
Yeah.
know. Is that a good enough answer?
Well, there is no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, right.
Just as I'm listening to you speak, I'm thinking about, I know for in my own experience, as time goes on, um, language can actually be very limiting, right? It's one of the reasons why I love so much the work that you do, because there really are so many different ways, unlimited ways in which we can express ourselves, right? I think a lot of people, I know that when I think of creativity, right, one of the first things I think of is speaking or writing. That's just going
Yeah.
back to the nature of the work that I do, right? In
Hmm.
terms of, being a spiritual teacher and working with people on their ascension journey. But I love that. I love that so much. Do you find that like a lot of the people that you work with are already in a space of following that path to, I don't know why the word optimizing is coming through, but like enhancing their creativity, or do you work with a lot of people who are on that initial path, like embarking on that journey really?
I would say most of the people that I have worked with are already they do have at least some sort of intention for their work, some idea of it being a bigger thing than themselves, in an esoteric kind of way. Um, I don't know that anyone who kind of wasn't already on that path would even know about the type of work that I do. So usually the people that seek me out are those that have already shared, at least on some level, about their work. They're ready to have a website or they've started one. They're thinking about writing a book. Um, they have kind of some idea of what it is to share, but they just don't know how to go about sharing it. It kind of, one thing that kind of comes to my mind is where I fit in my work being most rewarding to me is on, I don't know if you're familiar with Strengths Finder.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So one of my strengths on Strengths Finder is that of maximizer, which means I get a lot of fulfillment from taking something good and making it better. I get much more fulfillment from that than from taking something mediocre and bringing it up to good. So I'm not necessarily as interested, on a professional level, helping someone say, learn how to make things and how to share that message. If they're like kind of just they have some inkling of creativity, certainly I can do that. But what really fulfills me is helping someone who's kind of they're almost there, but they just don't know quite how to take the last few steps in sharing their work or solidifying their message. And so I'm really kind of more of a polisher in that respect, I guess. So I guess that kind of answers your question. I think it is people they've kind of entered into that space at least somewhat, but they need help from here.
Yeah. I find that a lot of what influences that lack of clarity, so to speak, right? On like, excuse me, on where to go next in terms of stepping into that next level comes from a lot of the societal programming that we're
Mm.
all influenced to different extents by, right? I find that,
Absolutely.
yeah, what we're conditioned to believe is or isn't possible, right, can influence our ability to feel clear, and that especially in the times that we're living in now, right now on the
Hmm.
planet, it's like a lot of people are feeling guided to lean in to deeper expression of their
Yeah.
creativity and the essence of who they truly are, and many of those people are being called to bring forward expressions of their creativity that are different from
Yeah.
what a lot of people are used to seeing, right? Or even what they've been conditioned to see or believe is possible. So I found that that can
Yeah.
definitely be kind of a hang up for people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree with you. I think there's so many of us that are just kind of in this liminal space right now that's um as I'm a big fan of Charles Eisenstein's work. I don't know if you follow him, but we're kind of in this space between, the old story and the new beautiful story that we know is possible. And we're just in this middle space where we don't fit in with a lot of what society offers us right now.
Yeah.
But it feels like such a reach still to get to where it is we want to be. So many people often I think feel just like they really don't know what their place is. And I think another thing too is everybody, of course, has their own unique form of expression and their personal gift to offer the world. And it's so, especially with social media, it's so easy to compare yourself to others and assume that you don't have anything new to offer. um, I think that it's very common for me to see people that really believe that the things that they're really good at and the things that are their greatest strengths, and I'll just limit this specifically to creatively, are nothing new. They take their strengths and their skills for granted, and they think they're normal, and that there are things that everybody has, not realizing that they just come so easily to them because they are their greatest strengths. That's kind of part of their purpose. So a lot of people are just are, I think, misinformed as to how valuable they really are. They take themselves and their skills and strengths and gifts for granted.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up because it's so true. It's so often the very things that we take for granted or we feel like are common sense for us
Hmm.
are the very things that we're here to, right, share with others and
Yeah,
the path that we're meant to forge.
yeah. Yeah, definitely, and that those things are so, needed, and that they here's another thing too. So, you could have, a certain skill or strength that you take for granted, that you think is very common, and let's just say it is somewhat common, okay? The thing that makes our whole being, our whole offering unique is that we're not just that one strength. We're like a symphony of different gifts and strengths coming together that make it unique. So, for instance, let's say that one of I'm thinking of a friend I have who is a certified yoga instructor. And it would be very easy, right, to think that, well, every yoga is everywhere. What new thing do I have to offer? Well, what she has to offer that's unique is her other interests, the other things that she's passionate about that actually inform the yoga. And so, like, one of them, probably the biggest thing, is that she really likes being yoga for the non-yogi, right? Yoga for the non-yoga wearing, mat carrying person that thinks that they're not, worthy of doing yoga, or they won't be able to get it right, or whatever. She likes making it ultra accessible to everybody. And she doesn't follow, necessarily all of the, let's just call them, cultural rules around yoga. But then there's these other sides of her, like she loves growing plants. She has her own garden where she grows tomatoes and just, a plethora of things. And that actually informs her whole offering because it makes her, she's called the yogi gardener. I'll just throw that out there. And it makes her particular brand of what it is that she's offering unique. It's not something that can be solved with any other person on the planet. I mean, we're all that way. We're all unique, and we all have, I just feel super passionate about this, that
Mhm.
it doesn't matter how many skills we have that are common, or that there are things that many other people have. It's our complete package, our complete combination of interests and skills, experience, that makes us unique. I mean, that's not really so hard to see when you look at it that way, you know?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Each one of us has a unique blueprint, if you will, like a soul blueprint of what we're here to do,
Yeah,
and down to, the cellular level. I mean, even
yeah,
our blueprint consists of, so much more beyond what we discover that we're here to do, but it's within ourselves. It's within our
yeah.
blood. It's within our being.
Yeah, and we connect with a certain person that, again, wouldn't necessarily connect with everybody else. Like, there are people specifically, I think, that need us, that wouldn't be as happy with the person that didn't garden, in her case, or, and who knows why exactly that is, right? I don't have that all figured out. I can't tell you how that all works.
Oh, well, there will always be mysteries, right?
Sure, of course. Yeah. So I can't say how it all works. I just know that there's a certain energy that you bring, that it's like with spiritual teachers on my own path. A lot of them may seemingly offer the same message, but I don't receive it the same from all of them. I can listen to one teaching from one teacher, And then here, years later, the same teaching from another teacher. And because of their unique essence, I get it where I didn't get it before from the other person.
Absolutely. Well, their unique essence, but also your change in frequency, right? Like we can hear
Yeah.
the same thing essentially three times over three different time periods and receive something different from it. And it's
Definitely, yes. No, that definitely informs it too. In fact, I was thinking that same thing as I was saying that. But I'm saying even if it was, let's just say within the same like week, where we hadn't evolved
yeah,
over a little bit over time, right? You just kind of you receive things differently from different people. It's not all the same, even if it is the same truth. It's not received the same from everybody to
yeah,
you.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. What inspired you to dedicate yourself to this work? Like, how do was it kind of a light bulb moment, or was it a journey
No,
over time where you kind of
it's
figured out
definitely been a
where you needed to
journey.
be?
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. I yeah, without giving you the whole life story, I've like a lot of artists, I've been a maker since childhood, so I've always enjoyed that sort of thing. And so I went to school to be a graphic designer. And when I got out of school, I didn't want to do that really because it felt like so much pressure. It felt like there was so much competition out there at the time for those types of jobs. So I kind of decided I just wanted to think about it for a year or two. And I got a job as a picture framer and loved that so much that I stuck with it for longer than I should. And then I was like, well, gosh, I can't do any more with this unless I have my own frame shop. I really need to get a big girl job. And I had absolutely no idea what, because I still wasn't necessarily ready to do graphic design work. But I was a designer, I was a maker, I was creative in general, and I was a huge craft book junkie. I loved craft books, and I had a huge collection of those. So when I saw an ad in the want ads, this was when we actually used paper to find
Yeah,
jobs
I remember
back
those
in the
days
old
also.
days. Yeah. I saw an ad for an associate editor for a publisher that published craft books. And I just thought, oh my goodness, how awesome would that be to get to work on the things that I loved so much. And I kind of saw it as like picture framing. It's a book, a craft book is really kind of a framing for a particular art form, right?
Mhm.
And I loved that so much. Again, I this was before I knew about, a lot of my other strengths and whatever. I just knew that there was some correlation there, something that I liked about a book. Um, so I applied several times, and because I didn't have I didn't study English, in college. It was, design and art and that kind of thing. I didn't get any invitations for an interview, but I was determined. It was just what I knew somehow it was the right thing to do. So I put together a really creative, it's not even a resume, but a creative resume, which was I made a bunch of Girl Scout badges to represent what strengths I thought would serve me in this position, so that even though I didn't maybe have what they were looking for on paper, I still had the life experience and the passion and the interest that
Mhm.
I believe they did, because I did know a lot about craft books and I have a propensity for writing, even though that's not what I formally studied. I knew I still had that innate ability. So I created this package. I can't even remember what I made the badges out of, probably shrink plastic or something like that, and packaged them up and mailed it. And I got an interview and I got the job. So that period of my life where I spent working with creatives, a huge variety of creatives. I had my hand touched at least, 275 books during the time that I was there. I was constantly being inspired by new artists and crafters, and that had a pretty big impact on me in terms of what the real span of interests and possibilities and opportunities to continually be learning new things really is. So, because I've always been making things, and this just kind of like that career period really supercharged that, I guess. It made me realize how important things made by hand are. They have such a value to me in my own life and to what I see, in all the makers around me and what they offer, that I thought there must be something to it. So it's really only been in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years that I have really focused my business on the value and the benefits and the philosophy of a life made by hand. Um, and then all those other things that I like to do, editing and teaching people how to do new things and messaging, they kind of all fall under that umbrella because that I discovered for myself all along really had been the most important thing. I think beauty is of value, and it's not just a nicety in this world. I think it's vital. It kind of is a sister of joy. And again, joy is something that's not nearly given enough value, I think, in our culture. It's a nice thing that you can have if you have extra time and if you've done all your other commitments or you have the energy left over or whatever. But just from a personal kind of experience that I went through, I learned that it's a matter of life or death. Joy is. It's not just something to be taken lightly, um, and to find time for if you can. It's vital. It's vital for happiness and health and a sustainable life. So beauty is just one of the things that feeds into joy. So that's kind of where that fits in for
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. I mean, beauty is part of our being. It's part of our
Mhm.
essence
Yeah.
and who we are. And the same with joy. It's funny as I'm listening to you talk about that, my crown chakra is tingling. It's like
Mm.
it's like God saying, "Yep, yep, for sure. Yes." Yeah,
Yeah.
again, going back, the discussion around societal programming could be its own episode and
For
conversation.
sure.
Suffice to say, that's just the topic of beauty, right? And joy. We've been conditioned living in a society to live disconnected and to focus on tasks and doing and productivity through doing as a way of living, but not even really living, surviving. Many of us have been taught only to survive and not actually to thrive,
Yeah.
which is part of who we are at a soul level. We are these creative beings, these creator beings, and beauty and
Hmm.
joy and our unique expression is all absolutely, absolutely part of that. I love that you speak to that. Thank you. I would
Yeah.
love for you to share with us just more of your wisdom around, for a lot of the people that you've worked with, right? What would you say would be the number one piece of advice that you would want to share with our listeners for someone who is in that space where they're feeling like, oh, I'm ready to step into the next thing or the next level of expressing myself creatively? And what would be the number one piece of advice that you would recommend for them to gain clarity around that?
Well, the thing that intuitively first came to mind is that you are already enough. Your essence is already the beauty that this world needs. So when you're looking for ways to present yourself, in your branding, let's just call it that, um, and you're looking outside of yourself for that, like you're looking to use a particular aesthetic or a particular messaging system, words, language, that are not authentic to you, it might look pleasing, but it's not going to help you thrive, and it's not going to uplift you because it doesn't resonate with you. It's not authentic. Authenticity, and so many people, of course, are judgmental about their authenticity, right? Like what they currently have in terms of when they think about
It makes me
their
laugh.
abilities.
Not to cut you off, it makes me
Yeah.
laugh, like hearing you say, how people are judgmental about their authenticity, because it's just like, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Is that like an oxymoron, or like what's the word?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
authenticity, right? Judgment comes from the mind, right? The ego mind, and authenticity comes from the heart. And I even saw like you were placing your hand over her. Anyways, I had to point that out because you have to have a sense of humor, right? It's like
Absolutely.
we do have the best intentions. And when I say we, the collective humanity, right?
Yeah.
But we love to put labels on everything. We love to judge everything. And so,
And compare, compare,
guys,
compare.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I didn't mean
Yeah.
to knock you off track. I
Oh, no,
was
no.
saying it was
Totally. No, not at all.
funny.
I think that, and I'm not saying that, everybody knows how to put together something authentic that they also feel is, polished and professional. I hate that word, by the way, professional. I just have never really liked it. It just kind
Well,
of rubs me the wrong
it's
way.
very corporate-y. It's very
It is,
corporate-y.
it is, it is. But, it's still something that people use as a reference point, right? So sometimes we still have to use it. But um, I think you have to start with being authentic, and you have to be okay with the fact that, the color palette that brings you joy might not be the one that's listed in the trending colors of, 2023. It might not be the one that you currently are seeing everywhere. Same thing with any part of your expression. I'm just using colors as one example. But if you're going to try and go outside of that and create something that's just trendy, or you know again, that you're using as a reference from somebody else, it's just not a good place to start. You can get plenty of help with helping create the actual visuals and whatever else, besides visuals. Again, that's what I keep coming back to, because that's my main world. But you can get help with how you actually put it all together, but you have to start with what really is authentic to you. And I think there are many ways that you can put your own hand, as I like to say, your own hand into your branding without it being what you think. For instance, if you let's say that you want somebody to help you create a logo because you don't feel confident in creating your own graphic. If there's something that you can do that comes from yourself, be it even just a simple line, or an original, a full sketch, or even part of your handwriting, there's so many different things you can do, where if that part becomes integrated in what a professional completes, it's going to resonate better with you. You're going to feel a connection to it, even though I think it's on a kind of a, I don't know, subconscious sort of level. It's, you might not necessarily know why you still connect to it, but it's because your fingerprint is still there. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of rambling, but there's so many ways for you to be authentic um, and still feel like you fit in, and still feel like you're a part, and you're not trying to just be, you're not trying to stand out in what you would consider for yourself, a
Yeah.
bad way.
Well, there's a difference between the need to be needed and the desire
Yeah.
to be accepted,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, for
One
sure.
is codependent and the other one is part of who we are. We're,
Yeah.
as humans, we're very much, we very much about community and connection,
Yes. Yes, it's
coming
important.
together, and as unique,
Survival.
yes, as well, thriving too, right? It's like each one of us, as unique as we are, we
Yeah.
share a lot in common in terms of the way that we desire to be connected. And could be another conversation on its own as well, but a lot of what you're describing, right? It's those challenges and the advice and the hesitations and all of that goes back to that we're living in a time where, you're feeling guided to bring forward deeper expression of yourself, which is in a higher realm,
Mhm.
and you're trying to, but you keep trying to fit it into a 3D construct. And that's what happens with this, like exactly with what you're describing, right? And so you have to be willing to release all of what you've known of
Mhm.
how to do things up to this
Yeah.
point. And going back to your mentioning of authenticity, right? It's like really, which that comes from the heart, right? It's tuning into the heart, having the willingness to open your heart, um, to allow whatever your soul wants to come through to come through. And it's more often than not, it's not going to make sense, right? So it's
Yeah.
like
Isn't that the
having
truth?
the
Yeah.
willingness to follow that. Like in my experience working with clients and on my own journey as well, a lot of times when we're not feeling clear about anything, it's because it can be traced back to our questioning of what's possible. Not so much that we don't know, we
Mhm.
already know, right? Our
Mhm.
hesitancy is just comes from questioning it.
Well, questioning it, and I think questioning it because we don't have any proof based on history, right? Because we are going into something new. There's nothing that, well, I
Right.
shouldn't say
Proof
nothing. There is
is,
often nothing that can support our desire because it is new and it is uncharted territory, perhaps. And yeah, I love how you put that. I can't remember exactly what you said now, but there's really kind of there's a fine line between that desire to be seen, to express who we really are, and for that to be accepted because we need to be accepted to feel safe. So sometimes though there's tension between those two things, right? I
yeah,
think
that's
that's what
where
you were
the
saying.
healing
Yeah, it's
journey
hard.
is so important. And when I say healing, I don't mean in the aspect of like you're broken and something needs to be fixed. It's
Yeah.
more about remembering because we're already whole and we already have all of this information and all of the answers.
Mhm.
It's just allowing ourselves to peel back the layers to reveal the wisdom that's already within us. Like that need to have proof is another ego construct.
For sure.
It's another aspect of societal programming that tells you
Mhm.
that you have to go based off of history. You have to
Yeah.
have proof. And I mean, I don't know where all the history is located, right? But there were ancient civilizations in existence that tens and hundreds of thousands of years ago that lived in a more advanced way than we do now.
Yeah.
you know you and
Mhm.
that goes back again to the programming. It's like you need to have proof. Well, you're also programmed to only look in certain places for that proof.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole here because
Right.
I
Yeah.
definitely can, but it's just to briefly illustrate of how there can be those layers, right? So even just very simply, I think having the willingness to question what you've known to be up to this point.
Yeah. Well, what about like artificial intelligence? I mean, okay, so if that is, and this is not like a stand on that one way or the other, but in terms of how we're evolving our culture, now we're comparing our own expression, our own work to artificial intelligence because sometimes we don't know whether something that we're seeing came from a human or not, right? It's not always explained explicitly. This pattern was designed by so and so. So in terms again of comparison, if we are if we're worried that, from that survival standpoint of, is my expression going to be accepted or rejected, and we're comparing it to something that's not even human, I
Well,
think,
a
I
human
don't know.
created it. A human created it, and that's the thing to understand
Well, a
too.
bunch of humans created it. It's
Yes, a bunch
collected
of
from what a
humans,
bunch of humans created,
and
but not
understanding,
necessarily one on their own.
yes, and understanding that even all of those humans have their own bias.
Yeah.
Even spiritual teachers do. Any person, no matter who they are, has bias based upon their
Oh,
own
yeah.
human experiences, and
Absolutely.
that comes through in their work. So I want to say, like, in closing, so to kind of move on from that, to say in closing, what else are you feeling guided to share?
I would say just don't underestimate your own power to create your own joy. Your own joy
Mhm.
is within yourself, and so often that comes um, from expressing yourself with your own hands, from the own things you make, whether it's, gardening, dinner, writing, whatever it is. That's where your joy is. You don't need to look outside of yourself for external, stimulation for that. It helps a lot of the time, but it's not required.
I love that. So good. So good. Tanya, I could
Oh,
talk to you for days. There were definitely subjects I wanted to jump
gosh, we
into
covered a
a little more
lot.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really did. So thank you so, so much for taking the time to be here with
Mm,
us today, and
thank you.
to share your unique and beautiful work, and just, yes, the importance and innate nature of, you know, beauty that's in us and all around us, and that we are creator beings, and that we each have a unique way of expressing that. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me have this conversation. It's fun.
Thank you for listening to Path of the Awakened Heart. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or pathoftheawakenedheart.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about living with an awakened heart and navigating your ascension journey, visit me at jenniferspore.com.